Hello and welcome to Sted Talks, my friends. Today I'm going to tell you a story that is very close to my heart. So, without wasting much time, I'll just go into the details of the story. It was the year 1997 when one of the most famous trainers in Indian soil, Mr. Rashid Beremji, met one of the most famous jockeys in the world. And the jockey asked about one of the horses that Rashid Beremji had trained in the past. The question was such that do you consider that horse as the Secretariat of India? Rashid Beremji quoted, "My dear brother, Elusive Pimpernal is not the Secretariat of India. Rather, you can refer to Secretariat as the Elusive Pimpernal of US." And this statement was a huge statement and it justifies how big a horse, or how famous a horse, how fast a horse that Elusive Pimpernel was. So today I'm talking about a story of this particular horse called as Elusive Pimpernel, the fastest horse on Indian soil. Born on the 23rd of April 1991 at Dharmesh Farms, which is owned by Mr. Sunny Brar, one of the most famous breeders in the horse racing industry, in the Indian horse racing industry. This horse was sired by Waterfield, and the dam of this horse was Right Step. Right Step was one of the famous horses of her times. So she was a dam to this horse. When this horse was being sold to Mr. Khaitan, Rashid Baramji himself came to Sunny Brar, the breeder, and told him and made a statement rather. And the statement was, "Why are you selling such donkeys to Mr. Khaitan? You should sell some good race horses to him." And the same trainer, Rashid Baramji, was later heard quoting, rather, he quoted publicly, saying that this is the best horse I have ever trained. Hence, it is a story of a growth, it is a story of power, it is a story of endurance. Also, if you might refer to some of the recordings of the past, this is also a story of how humble a horse can be. So let's start with how this horse had its journey and how this horse achieved the glory that it has today. So the first race which was this horse actually had was the Royal Turn Plate in Bangalore, and this horse was actually a 3-year-old horse, and Rashid Beremji had tried and kept this horse a bit away from professional racing to make sure that this horse is completely fit before he has his first race. And this his efforts, Rashid Beremji's efforts, paid off. And one more topping on this was the jockey which this horse was ridden by. It was Mr. Aslam Kadir, one of the best jockeys Indian horse racing has ever seen. So at the Royal Turn Plate in Bangalore, this horse won by a distance of 5.5 horse lengths, and that was when everyone was surprised. The two people who were not surprised was Mr. Rashid Beremji, who was actually working with this horse, and jockey Aslam Kadir, who had actually understood how powerful this horse was. That horse then had many races. That one it won in Chennai, it won in Bangalore, it won in Mysore, and then later on this horse was brought to Mumbai, where the Great Indian Derby has been run. The show off was between the face off rather was between two of the biggest horses on the Indian horse racing soil, both trained by Mr. Rashid Beremji. Jockey Aslam Kadir had to make a choice, and he chose the colt over the foal. So Elusive Pimpernel and Mystic Memory were in the show off for the biggest race on Indian soil, the Indian Derby in 1995. The race started, and suddenly everyone in the stands was just surprised. Elusive Pimpernel started off on the 7th position, and slowly as the race moved through the second quarter, Elusive Pimpernel was placed 11th. There was no chance that Elusive Pimpernel was going to win that race. But as later on people started saying that this is not a horse, it is a god. This horse just took off from the flock. Jockey Aslam Kadir took this horse out on the outer track, and this horse actually managed to win the race, defeating its very own trainer's horse, Mystic Memory. And this was when the world took notice of a horse that was going to rule the Indian soil. It was immediately followed by the classic Indian Turf Invitational in Calcutta, when horse length distances were thrown apart, and this horse won by more than 9 horse lengths, which was one of the records, and I think is still the record today as well. As if this horse had started making an habit of winning with longer distances. It won the 1,000 guineas, it won the 2,000 guineas, it had already on the verge of winning the so-called Indian Triple Crown if it had participated in the St. Leger in Mumbai. But when the horse was flown down to Mumbai, there's some injury to this horse and he couldn't actually win the St. Leger that time. But then it took a long gap. The horse was almost away for laid off for like 4 months before it tracked or before it was staged for the Chief Justice Cup in Bangalore. And the Chief Justice Cup in Bangalore was famous for two reasons, rather will be remembered for two reasons. One, this horse was coming after a long layoff, and second, because this was the first race with this horse was running around with all the 4-year-old horses. But at the same time, one thing which this horse had always been in the favor of this horse was Jockey Aslam Kadir. Aslam Kadir took this horse to the finish line, and then this wins were later on topped up with the two major wins in Hyderabad, as I mentioned in my previous video, the Nizam Gold Cup and the President of India Gold Cup. So these are the major races which just was just swept by Elusive Pimpernal, and during that time, during 1995, Elusive Pimpernal actually looked invincible. No one thought this horse could ever lose a race. There came a moment towards the end of the season in Pune, where it was the Igdar Gold Cup in Pune. So this horse was racing against Consequence, which was one of the famous horses, and it had a photo finish for the second position, where the horse was almost not running at all in the last quarter. This horse had a good enough lead, but did not keep on to that lead. Aslam Kadir quoted after this race that I tried my best, but the horse just couldn't run. I literally had to pull that horse to the finish line. And that was the time when this horse was taken to Kolkata, the last race of the season, where this horse was actually kind of injured. It had a small string in its leg. But apart from all odds, Rashid Baramji had a lot to prove to the media, and the horse itself had a lot of critics around, and hence jockey Mark Gallagher sat on this horse, and this horse won without even a single workout. The only time this horse came on the track that week in Kolkata was when this horse was about to run the final race, and that's it. Jockey Mark Gallagher quoted that day that this is the best horse I've ever seen in my life. I haven't done anything. I didn't put my skills at all, and this horse just won the race by itself. Elusive Pimpernal had become immortal, undefeatable, and that is when the next season of 1996 came in. Champions retire like champions, and I think this 1996 season was for Elusive Pimpernal to prove that all that happened in the past, all those 13-14 races that it had won on a trot just with just one second place finish, was not a fluke. And this horse again went through the same drill of the great Indian racing season, where there's 1,000 guineas, there's 2,000 guineas, there's a Pune Derby, then there are the Nizam Gold Cup, the President of India Gold Cup, the Mysore Trophy. 6 races. Each race was won with a minimum distance of 7 horse lengths. 7 horse lengths at the minimum, with 4 records. And this is something very unimaginary. I don't think this will ever happen. If you look at the videos of those races, it is something that you're watching a machine run. In fact, Aslam Kadir, when he retired, he had an interview where he said that it was not a horse, it was a machine, something like a Ferrari. Rather, I'll quote his words: मैं सिर्फ गाड़ी को चाबी लगाता था और वो फरारी जैसे भागती थी. Meant that I just used to put my keys on a Ferrari and it used to just run like a Ferrari. That is what Elusive Pimpernel was, guys. Came October 1996, the only place where Elusive Pimpernel was defeated. Rashid Baramji got the horse back in there for the RWTC ITC Gold Cup. And in this race as well, Elusive Pimpernel won the race with a huge distance of 4 horse lengths. The revenge was taken. Even Pune had a seen Elusive Pimpernel win. Guys, these are the kind of horses which actually are seen just once in a lifetime, or rather once in a century. We talked about Secretariat, but I don't think even Secretariat has a 22 of 23, rather 23 of 23 podium finishes, and never stepped on even the third position. Considering the conditions of this horse, the owner and the trainer decided to just get this horse back into the stables and have him rest properly, because he had already won more than 10 million Indian rupees, the highest amount by any horse back then. So that was, guys, a story of a horse which has become immortal in the Indian horse racing industry. This is like the Sachin Tendulkar of cricket. This is like the Roger Federer or Rafael Nadal of tennis. This is like anything that it can be. I mean, if you think about Indian horse racing, Elusive Pimpernel is the god of Indian horse racing. There's a lot of data available, a lot of videos available. Please do go and watch them. And thank you for watching this. Please do share the glory of Elusive Pimpernel with all your friends and let everyone know about it. Thank you and have a good day.